cafe anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 2219-2219. It's Mike Matthews. And I discovered today something
Mike's Daily Podcast.
interesting, and that is I had something that was on my hand that I didn't really understand until today. That's when I looked at it and I thought, oh, my hand looks like The Walking Dead, like I'm one of those characters on that show, and that my name is Fred. And I said, I've got poison oak. So that was a discovery.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Not the best discovery today. I've had poison oak many times in the past, but
Mike's
it was
Daily
never on my hand like this.
Podcast.
And I am a right-handed individual.
Yeah!
And I need to use my right hand throughout the day because the left hand just doesn't know what the right hand's doing or doesn't know what it's doing ever. I'm not ambidextrous. I'm just, my left hand is stupid. It doesn't know. It's like, what are you trying to do, Mike? Forget it, Mike. You're not going to be able to do that, Mike. I won't let you, Mike. It works against me. So, here we are at Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. I have been having an interesting week. Today was definitely a nice capper for this week, so I'm hoping the weekend will be nice and calm. We've been getting a little bit of tiny bits of rain here and there, nothing like the massive saturation like we've had in the past. And I guess that people are listening to the podcast because somebody told me, Mike, I listen to your podcast in bulk. Yes, in bulk. He listens to the podcast all at once. He'll get a bunch of them saved up and then just goes through a whole bunch. Do you know what I realized today? And that's fine, however way you want to digest this podcast, whatever. I met the guy who wrote the theme song to Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Do you remember that?
And here's today's podcast picture.
It starred Mark Curry as Mark Cooper. It had Holly Robinson Pete, Don Lewis, Raven Simone, Sandra Quarterman were all on this show. And I remember meeting Gary Boren. He wrote the song Hanging with Mr. Cooper. And Vogue performed on it. And I forgot that I had met him years and years ago. This was probably the late 90s. And that's way before I met Basil the Boxer, the late, great Basil the Boxer. We had so many fun times walking, and I don't think I ever wrote... Did I write? I think I did write a couple songs when Basil the Boxer was sitting there on the couch while I was trying to write a song. You know, what Don Henley said about writing songs, he still writes songs because now what he does is he imagines how music is a communal thing. It's enjoyed by a community, music. If you think about it all the way back to the gospel days and singing the gospel hymns in the church, it was a community thing. It made everyone feel a togetherness. And humans want to feel togetherness, and that's what was so devastating during the pandemic, working from home. And then people discovered Zoom, but it wasn't the same as actually being in the same room with someone. And then we're social distancing, and that's antithetical to what humans want to do. Oh, by the way, I had the wrong word. I said, I was referring to the epidermis. I was having epidermis issues. I think I might have said epidural. And that's not something that I, as a male, particularly since I can't get pregnant, but I don't know. Epidural seems like that's what would happen if you wanted to. I think that's what my mom had, because I was a cesarean birth. So, as Don Henley said, we want to enjoy music communally, and he says when he writes a song, he tries to write it in a way knowing that it should be geared in some way that involves community, that a community will enjoy it, a group of people will enjoy it, to feel a sense of togetherness. That's what he thinks of when he writes a song. And you might be going, well, I don't understand what dirty laundry has to do with being communal and a community thing. But if you think of like End of the Innocents, the way that was written, very open-ended, but then some slight jabs towards Ronald Reagan. Yes, the tired old man that we've elected king, that was for Ronald Reagan. There was, what was the other one he wrote that was... all she wants to do is dance, but that was supposed to take place like in a bar in a third world country and people are killing each other. I think that's what the inspiration was for that song. So that's how he writes it. Now I don't know, there's also songwriting where people write from they're angry and they want to yell at somebody, but they're yelling at them through the lyrics of their song. Be it a politician or an ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, or a whatever, or something about life that they dislike. But I guess when I podcast, I'm podcasting in a community sort of way. I know maybe there's one person, only one person, or half a person listening, or no person listening, but it could also be heard by a bunch of people. And these podcasts, they stay on the internet basically forever, especially when you upload one to YouTube, because I think YouTube will probably be around for quite a while, and I've got several podcasts up there, and I can go back and listen to podcasts from years ago, which, as you know, I've done 2,219 podcasts, and that goes back almost 10 years. We're at the 10-year anniversary mark in May. So in a couple of months, May 7th will be the 10-year anniversary of when I actually started Mike's Daily Podcast, but I've been podcasting since before that. All this to say, what's your favorite food to grill? Yes, at some point, we're going to be grilling again. In California, we've had some warm days in the past couple of weeks. Now it's been kind of chilly. But as we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. Here are some suggestions that some people gave to this magazine. I'll tell you what the magazine is in just a moment, what it is. Oh, and I'll finish up that Mr. Cooper thing, hanging with Mr. Cooper. Grilled veggies, especially zucchini. Slice them thin, drizzle a little olive oil on them, salt and pepper, put them on the grill. Great suggestion, writer to this magazine. Tri-tip and asparagus grilled with garlic oil, keeps everything from drying out, adds lots of flavor. Wrap corn, add olive oil. Won't burn like butter. I add an ice cube to the corn to help it steam and to keep it moist. Foil packs with potatoes, shrimp, peppers, onions, sausage, and sliced lemons. Shish kebabs with sliced sirloin, peppers, onions, mushrooms, marinated skirt steak, and a seasoned pork. Oh, and seasoned pork medallions. Okay, here are some simple tips for the barbecue season. Heat matters. For denser, heavier meats like burgers or steaks, grilling hot and fast over direct heat works well. For lighter, thinner foods like chicken, vegetable, and fish, use indirect heat to grill at a lower temperature. That's right. So fish, you want to grill lower and indirectly. When I do my salmon plank thing, I take the cedar plank, and you can get those at hardware stores, all kinds of places. I think food stores might carry them too. And you have to put them in water for about an hour, let them soak, make sure it's submerged. Then you put it on the grill, get the hot coals going. I suggest doing it with coals. Make sure the coals are in a little pile in the middle of your round whatever grill you've got, and then put the plank off to the side so it's not actually over the coals. And it's a good way to cook the salmon. Of course, you don't want to overcook the salmon. Overcooking fish leads to ick. Then use a meat thermometer. I'm not a big fan of meat thermometers. I'm going to jump over that. Have a set of grilling tools handy, and always keep an eye on your food to avoid overcooking. To prevent food from sticking, clean grill grates regularly. I like to clean the grill grate right after I cook. after I take the food off, I take the wire brush thingy and I go at it. And then it's still got the hot heat to cook off the rest of whatever is hanging on the grill. And it helps you clean the grill. Now, other people suggest, you got to put this on there and that and put olive oil or some kind of cleaning, whatever. That's fine too, but this is the way I do it. Okay, and get the most out of your grill. Pick a grill with features that make your life easier, such as zonal cooking and a side burner. I do tell you now that I do need to replace my grill. I bought it from Walmart, I think 10 years ago. And it's falling apart. It got all rusty. Of course, it gets those high heats, and then it rains, and then it rusts, and it's basically corroding all to heck. So, time to buy a new one, Mike. But there you go. Okay, in the great big world that in which we live, did you hear about... So, Mr. Cooper, first off, let me just say, Gary Boren was one of the co-writers of the song Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and... I met Gary Boren. I was playing at a coffee house. Excuse me. We just had a little earthquake here at Cafe anyway. We're still having one. And it's going to stop right now. In Newbury Park, which is right next to Thousand Oaks. And there's some very nice, beautiful houses around there. And some nice they've got little strip malls and shopping centers, but they're very nice. And there was this coffee house that you walk into, and it's got very nicely decorated inside. Did I say nice? Yes, very nice. Not Nice, but nice. Not the Italian city or town or whatever it is, but it was pleasant. So I was in there, and I forget how I first got into that coffee house, that little coffee house place, but I know I was there with a friend. And while I was there hanging out with this friend, I noticed the owner of the coffee place. And I got good in the 90s spotting coffee shop owners, coffee house owners. And there was a lot of them. There was a plethora of coffee houses in the Ventura County area. And I got good at walking up to them and saying, hey, I am a songwriter. Do you ever do any open mics, or do you ever do any, let artists perform in your coffee house? And back then people were really keen on doing that sort of thing. And this one guy was like, yeah, how about I got an opening on Saturday nights if you want to play here. I don't have a PA system, he said. And I go, oh no, I got my own. I'll bring it. I had a little thing and I'd set it up. It was a little keyboard amp, and it let me plug in a microphone and I was good to go. Nothing too fancy. Had a mic stand. In fact, some of the stuff I have that I use for this podcast, I used back then in the coffee house, because I'm very DIY that way. So I was performing there one evening, and this guy shows up, and he's watching it. I could tell he's really getting into my stuff, and he's really enjoying it. And so much so, it was kind of freaking me out a little bit. And then when I was done, he walked up to me and he said, hey, that was good. I like your stuff. And I go, oh, are you a songwriter? He goes, yeah, I'm Gary Boren, and I've written some stuff for some TV shows. Have you heard of the TV show Hanging with Mr. Cooper? And I told my lovely lady friend about it, but she didn't remember it, which is funny because the show took place in Oakland. Actually, it was probably filmed in, Hollywood, in probably the CBS studios there, where they've got, or near NBC. There's the Studio City studios where they've shot Seinfeld and a bunch of the sitcoms. Probably was shot down there. But Mr. Mark Cooper was a single high school teacher, basketball coach living in Oakland, California. Between coaching, teaching, and dealing with neighborhood struggles and living with two beautiful female roommates, he keeps a humorous, positive outlook on life and provides advice and fun to the many people in his life that he encounters. The first episode aired in 1992, so that's how far back it is. It ended in 97. So I got to know Gary. We would talk on the phone now and then. He listened to my show. I was on the radio on a country station called K-Hay, had the Santa Fe Cafe show. He'd listen. And one time I said, hey, Gary, I write songs. Would you want to ever try and co-write a song together? He goes, sure, why don't you come on over to the house? So I come over to the house. He's got this really cool digital recording system, and this is in the 90s when that stuff was just starting to come out. And he was able to create like a drum beat that he looped, and he's playing the guitar and recording like super fast. That I was just amazed, like, oh wow, you can do it that quick, and nothing was troubling him. Like he could just do it and record ideas and thoughts, and all of a sudden he could like make a little demo album right there. And so we're throwing ideas back and forth, and we came up with a song called "You Should Surround Her," and I forget the rest of it. That was the concept, was surrounding her. Like, what the heck does that even mean? Surround her with what? Fence? Barbed wire? What are you, some kind of possessive creep? What's going on, Mike? But we were throwing that idea around, and I don't think it ever turned into a real song, but he was playing around with it, and it was fun to collaborate. By the way, Don Henley and Billy Joel, in that interview I was talking about yesterday, they, at the end of this interview that they did back 6 years ago, were saying, yeah, we should definitely collaborate, because they've been wanting to for years. So I don't know if that ever came to anything or not. It's been 6 years since. Hopefully they've done something. But that was Gary Boren. I stayed friends with him. I remember he put on a big New Year's Eve. Oh, this was New Year's Eve 2000. That's right. Y2K night. And he put on, I guess New Year's Eve 1999, just before the 2000s started. He had a party at his house. I remember going to that, and there were a lot of musicians there, and I performed a couple of songs that I had written. And then I had to run over to the Ventura County Fairgrounds because they were having a big New Year's Eve casino fireworks show. Bunch of bands, big bands, rock bands performing. So that's the last time I saw Gary. No, wait. No, we went to a Mary Chapin Carpenter Sean Colvin concert. That's right. I invited him to that, and that was fun because he is Sean Colvin, Mary Chapin Carpenter, big songwriter. Sean Colvin had the song Sonny Came Home. Mary Chapin Carpenter had a couple of country hits. So, all that to say is, I completely forgot about Gary Boren and was just reminded today because my lovely lady friend, as she is also fighting the poison oak, was hitting her chest because she didn't want to scratch it anymore. So she was like tapping it. And I said, oh, you look like Celine Dion. And Mary Chapin Carpenter had a song about Celine Dion, the way Celine Dion used to hit her chest. Did you remember that? I don't know if it's got to be on YouTube somewhere, but apparently Celine Dion used to hit her chest. So like, just, I don't know, like a Canadian dramatic move, because she's a French Canadian, right? So that reminded me of the time Mary Chapin Carpenter used to have a song called I Wanna Be a Diva that she would do at her concerts. It was a comedic song. And while she's performing it, and this was at the Santa Barbara Bowl, Sean Colvin in the background would act out like the different divas that she was talking about. And when she talked about Celine Dion, she did the Sean Colvin hit her chest like Celine Dion. Okay, we're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. Look who's here. It's Celine Dion. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing? It's not Celine Dion.
That's a disgruntled fiddle player, tell you what.
What?
Yeah, we used to be on your show, Santa Fe Cafe, way back when. There, tell you what.
What?
Mary Chapin Carpenter used to sing country music.
That's right. I think she's still alive. Big dog advocate, big dog fan. I remember that she had, if you got any of her CDs, I think she'd have a picture of her dog, whatever dog she was owning at the time, in the CD. Look who else is here.
Oh my God, make the delicious root beer hamster right now.
Excellent. I'm going to drink some of this wonderful. Yum. That's really good.
Drink some right now, I'll cut you.
Okay, I'll get around to that. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Chime in about anything that we covered today. 336mm daily. 3 + 3 = 6. As in Mike Matthews daily, as in what this podcast is trying to be. I'm noticing more and more people are getting vaccinated, and there's a lot more people getting the vaccine, and I'm seeing fewer and fewer people being conspiratorial and saying the vaccine is some kind of mind control drug the government's trying to input into our bodies. So that's a good thing. I am seeing that people are getting through the vaccine okay. One interesting theory I heard from someone who had the coronavirus said he got the first shot and got sick and felt like he had the coronavirus again for a day, but then it was gone after a day. And he told me, he said, what I have heard is people who've never had the coronavirus, when they get the first shot of the vaccine, they're fine. The second shot is what makes them feel like they don't feel so good for whatever reason. They feel sluggish, or they get like a little bit sick somehow, but then by the next day they're completely fine. And he said for people who have had the coronavirus, it's the exact opposite. So I will find out, I guess, when I eventually get that. But yes, so we'll see what happens. Good luck with you with that. And that's it for the show. Thanks for listening. Take it out, A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!
And the podcast picture I forgot to mention is of Basil the Boxer from 5 years ago. We were at Half Moon Bay, and he was running up and down Poplar Beach, that beach he loved so much. You can see the picture at mikesdailypodcast.com.